WrestleMania Night 2 took place last night, and in what is the final sort of episode in our lovely WrestleMania weekend, we'll have a look at Night 2. We start off with probably the most controversial match of the night. Randy Orton defeating The Fiend with Alexa Bliss. Now, Orton comes out, very nice little Orton thing, loved his gear. I'm a fan of red and white gear, I'll talk about with Edge later on, but Orton comes out, gets a lovely pyro show, and then stares down the ring, and then we have a little bit of a promo break, and then we come back to The Fiend, and The Fiend is, he sort of starts, he's like, I'm trying to, like a runway, he starts to walk out as the burnt Fiend we've seen recently, and he sort of goes through a dimension and heals back to his former self. I think that was very strange, but maybe he couldn't wrestle in the burnt gear, I don't know, but strange thing to do, but I think that's probably a lot of, probably on the bottom of people's list of worries for that match. Then the entrance of The Fiend, he comes out, there's a big box, Alexa comes out, and then there's a big box just outside the ring, it's a big jack in the box, Alexa starts turning it, The Fiend rises out from the thing, the visual is incredible, don't get me wrong, that it looked amazing, it really did. The Fiend comes out of the rise of the box, jumps off at Randy, them two have a good back and forth, looks really great. Fiend just no-selling a lot of the moves. Outside of the ring, Orton goes to powerbomb him through the announce table. Fiend basically pops up straight after Mandible claws him. Then Orton, then 3 patented DDTs, and you're like, fuck, that is a lot. That is a lot of moves. And then the camera something happens, and the Jack in the Box starts whirring again, and Alexa Bliss appears from the top of the Jack in the Box. And the visual, now I know people are not a fan of the finish and stuff, but the visual of Alexa Bliss in a completely different gear, with that black sludge we've seen Orton spew out recently, just pouring down her head, it looked incredible. That visual of it just dripping, coming from the crown, all over her face as you stare. The Fiend is completely enamoured by this. Distraction, Randy Orton, RKO, 1, 2, 3, Orton leaves straight away. Now, I'll talk about the results or what I think it means in my opinions, but I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter saying, this is Sister Abigail, the Fiend has sort of brought, Alexa was showing signs of Sister Abigail, and when the Fiend wasn't there, the Fiend returns, and now Abigail is this thing, is this entity, and for me, I know people will get annoyed at the result, but the visual alone makes that match fine. Randy winning, it's one of them tough ones, because Randy shouldn't have won. The Fiend definitely deserves a Mania win and a big win. But I think this is part of a bigger project. Now, I know people are they're going to judge WWE for that instant reaction, and also, I don't blame them. WWE have consistently failed into sort of bargaining with other situations and not really prolonging them. I just think this is one where on Raw we will see something where it's the Fiend maybe being controlled by Sister Abigail, where the Fiend is not himself. He's created this, it's sort of almost like he created a monster, and nobody wants to see Marshall no more. They want Sister Abigail, so that he's created this thing. He didn't expect it to come true. And now that he can't complete any of his philosophies and his goals because of Sister Abigail, he wanted this, and he sort of come back to bite him. I think we could have had a Fiend win. We could have had Fiend, Sister Abigail, Randy. Randy gets distracted by the Alexa, the black ink, and then Fiend pins Randy. But I like the thing of how the Fiend was just so enamoured by Alexa that Orton made the most of this. One RKO probably not. I think I was telling Kieran, I would like it if RKO, Orton goes for the cover and just takes like 3 more RKOs, then pins him, and then it sort of keeps the Fiend a bit strong. But for me, this is one where we'll look back in maybe 6 months, 3 months, and go, it made sense. All this made sense. That I know people were not happy with it, and I can understand why 100%. But for me, I'm gonna have faith. And then we had the best match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defeating Natalya and Tamina. And as much as you know, I said it yesterday's video, I'm not a fan of Natalya, and I don't mind Tamina. They genuinely did okay. I think there was a bit of sloppy, but coming off a very strange ending, I think this was probably the wrong match to sort of, after the crowd was booing everything, I think it was the wrong match to go to next. Nia Jax Shayna pick up the win, which is fair enough for the and technical submission. Tamina looked strong, Natalya looked strong, but it's Nia and Shayna. I do think we need to see a new title challenger and probably a new title holder, hopefully. Fingers crossed, Riot Squad. Then we had Kevin Owens defeating Sami Zayn, and this was the first proper good match. We know that them two were going to wrestle. Obviously, Logan Paul was ringside. It was great. Sami comes in, does his entrance, and then we had him introing Logan Paul, giving it. Logan Paul looked very confused, but he was actually selling it. I think it's something that I saw when I loaded up the WrestleMania stuff. Social media outlets who were not wrestling ones typically, already clipping on the Logan Paul and saying how wrestling fans gave him praise for actually selling stuff during the match. It was when, what was it? I think when Sami hit the brainbuster on the rope to KO or vice versa, Logan Paul genuinely sold it. And when I think Sami got flown off the top rope, Paul just slumped back in his chair. Clearly, either he did that off his own back, or someone clearly told him, try react to these moves when it's being hit on Sami. Really enjoyed that. The match was great. KO picks up the win, which, again, further storyline Sami. You could have had anyone win, but Sami is now just going to go deeper and deeper into this conspiracy. What's it called? Logan then comes into the ring afterwards and just goes to Sami and KO. Good match. That was a really good match. I enjoyed it. Sami's just getting more and more annoyed, conspiracy, you congratulating KO, he won. Logan pushes Sami. Sami just leaves. And then Logan, cocky himself, goes and lifts KO, goes, yeah, we did it, KO. KO, boom, kicks to the gut, stunner. Paul sells it, straight in the face. He's got, I think, nearly 25k likes on the clip, the picture of him laid face down in the ring. So clearly, good social media stunt by WWE. But really good match. Nice little thing. It wasn't even a long feud that could have had a better ending. Sami will go deeper and deeper down this trail of conspiracies, and I am all for it. Probably a low key match, and that's Sheamus Riddle. It is mental what happens when you let Riddle just wrestle. If you just let Riddle wrestle, he is great. And Sheamus and him proved it today. Really good match. Really good match. Enjoyed it so much. The finish, the bro kick on the moonsault, wonderful. Sheamus wins, which I think is a bit... I would have liked Riddle to hold the belt longer, but Sheamus looks like a beast. Riddle doesn't look weak. He showed that he can wrestle. He's a good wrestler. Take away stupid bro gimmick. Not stupid bro gimmick, but you know what they're doing. And I think he could be a star. Fail of the night for me, Apollo Crews for Big E. The match could have been great. I would have loved to see the drums be used more, the tables. And I'm all for Dabba-Kato, or whoever he's going to be called, coming in and interfering and winning Apollo thing. I just wish the match went a bit longer before we saw him. And we didn't really see any of the drums being used, any of anything being used. It was such a shame, but Apollo, he's got his military leader, I'm going to guess to go with, his sort of protection. I'm liking it, and I hope this means Big E goes on to the bigger belts. Hopefully. But Apollo's new Intercontinental, he deserves it, but it's very interesting to see what they're going to do sort of going further with this. We had the Raw Women's Championship match, Rhea Ripley versus Asuka. Now, it was good, don't get me wrong, and Asuka is great. I just feel so sorry for Asuka. It's like, they could have done this last year with Rhea beating Charlotte. Instead, they did it to Asuka instead, which is such a shame, but Asuka, I don't know where Asuka goes, that's my problem. Also, I've just looked at the times. The second longest match on the card was that tag team match between Nia Jax and Shayna and Natalya and Tamina, which is absolutely just mental to me. But yeah, Ripley defeating Asuka, I'm all for Ripley, and I like the image of Ripley, Bianca, Raquel, and now holding the three NXT. It's so proven what NXT can be, is this big sort of feeder system that's actually sort of slowly paying off. Now your two women's champions in the main roster are former NXT alumni and very recent NXT alumni, so I'm all for that. Don't know where Asuka goes. I'd love her to go down to NXT because I think Io's staying there. I'd love her to have a match with Io. It's one of my dream matches when in the WWE, so hopefully we might see that. And then the main event. The main event kept this show up. It wasn't as good as Night 1 and Night 2, we'll be honest, but this main event really cemented it. It's just everything right. Edge and Bryan finally switching gears, switching it to the moment we've expected them to go to, this vicious side. And Kieran summed it up perfectly. He went, Edge switched, lost his head. Bryan switched, lost his head. The only man who didn't lose his head was the heel in this match of Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns prevails. He hits a spear on Edge and then just and Concerto, and then drags the body on top of Bryan and pins them both. Great, really good match. Energetic. The offense was great. One wrestler didn't feel out of the picture. Like, I was worried with Bryan, and with Bryan being added to the match, I was worried that he was going to be taken out early, and he was. But comes back into the match. Jey Uso proves to be a valiant man to Roman Reigns, basically helping him win the match. I know people would have been happy that, he got took out early, but that's the thing. He's going to help Roman. He's proving his loyalty to him. And Jey wins the Andre the Giant. Roman wins in the main event. The Tribal Chief, the Tribal Council, looks strong. I think it'd be interesting to see what happens when Jimmy returns. And I would love to see another. I'd like to see Tamina sort of snap on Natalya. Tamina join them. And I know that it's Tamina and stuff, but have a bit of that. In WWE, she is built as a threat in the women's division in terms of just her size and her strength and her speed and stuff. She is a valuable asset, so I'd like to see her add to the Tribal Council. But overall, really good match. The match of the night, probably for me. I think Sheamus Riddle was definitely, KO Sami was there, but match of the night was that main event. Was WrestleMania week good? Yes, it was. I think if we look at NXT TakeOvers, you saw my review. If you didn't, it's there. It's on the YouTube channel. They were two amazing wrestling shows, and Mania was rarely going to ever top that, as we've seen recently. But Night 1 was the better show. Night 2 had a better moment for me. I loved the KO Sami. It was probably my match of maybe not match of the weekend, but definitely one of my highlights of the match and the moments. Maybe just because I'm a YouTube fan. But yeah, really good. They blew out the wall, I think, especially with everything that happened Night 1. To come out Night 2 and actually get the show. It's mental to think that Night 1 had all these delays, but it was probably a better show. Night 2, I think, was still a great show. The main event really helped it. Belair is your champion. Roman Reigns is your champion. SmackDown's main event of both nights. We're having announcer change as well. We've got Adnan, I can't remember his second name, I do apologise. Baron Saxton and Corey Graves, and now the Raw announced him, and the SmackDown, I think, is going to be Michael Cole and someone else. Tom Phillips is now at 205 Live, and he's taking more of a backstage role, and then Samoa Joe is part of the WWE roster. Do we see a Joe return on Monday Night Raw? Do we see a Becky Lynch return? There may be a video tomorrow. If something big happens on Raw, we'll wait and see with that. There will also be a ranked video. This will maybe at the end of next week. Well, I'm going to try rank, my personal opinion, every single match of WrestleMania. So it's going to be a tough one to do. We'll wait and see how I book that and how I choose it. But don't forget to check that out. That'll be probably the latter ends of next weekend. But thank you very much for joining for all this coverage of WrestleMania. I've really enjoyed it. And on to, will it be, is Backlash, I think? No, it's Money in the Bank. On to Money in the Bank. But go home Raw, first Raw after Mania tonight. Hopefully it's a good one. Don't forget to check out all the social media channels. They're all underneath below. And peace.